All right, good afternoon and welcome to the West Covina Traffic Commission meeting on Tuesday, September 13th at 3 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if everyone could introduce themselves. My name is Allison Richter with the West Covina Traffic Department.
Jana Robbins with the West Covina Traffic Department.
Corporal Adam Seigner, West Covina PD Traffic Bureau.
Brian Cervantes, City Engineering Division.
All right, and now I'm going to discuss the traffic committee items that were approved the last meeting. So the first item was the red curb review at 1500 East Cameron Avenue. That report was discussing red curb installation, and it was unanimously approved by the council. The second item was the red curb review at 1831 Gemini Street, which was red curb installation and was unanimously approved by the Traffic Commission. And the third item was traffic review and discussion of the northbound Citrus Street at Garvey Avenue South. And that item was purely for discussion, so it's still being decided on, and all three will be brought to the City Council for further discussion in a few months. Now for the new traffic items. So first, we're going to go over the traffic review along Roland Avenue between Vincent and Estelle. So West Covina received a resident request for reported speeding along Roland Avenue between Vincent and Lark Ellen, and requested that the city look into the speeding concerns they had and propose any traffic calming devices that could be installed. As for the existing conditions, on the east side of the segment, there's Roland Avenue Elementary School, Roland and Lark Ellen. And it's important to note we actually brought a previous report a few months ago to Traffic Commission that was reviewed that included Estelle Avenue and Lark Ellen Avenue along Roland as well. And so we're not really going to include that because we already had a report. But as for the rest of the segment, from Vincent Avenue and east to Estelle, we reviewed the existing conditions. So yeah, there's lots of residential for single family. Speed limit's 35 miles per hour. And we also completed ADT, so average daily traffic. So for eastbound along Roland Avenue between Vincent and Lark Ellen, it was 2,439 average for 24 hour. And westbound it was 2,464 for a total of 4,903 vehicles. And as for the speed survey, that was also completed for Roland along that segment between Vincent and Lark Ellen. And the 85th speed percentile was 38 miles per hour, and the posted speed limit was 35. So it was a little higher than the posted speed limit, but nothing too abnormal. The collision investigation we also completed. There were only 7 relevant collisions that took place in the last 3 years along the segment, within 100 feet of the intersections along the segment, which can be seen on the PowerPoint now. So almost all of the collisions occurred at Roland and Vincent, with only one occurring along the segment close to Estelle Avenue. We also looked into traffic calming strategies that are typically used for segments like this. So as for recommendations, the first item we are suggesting and recommending are to remove and replace existing speed limit signs and replace them with oversized signs so it's easier for drivers to see them. So those will be posted along Roland Avenue along the segment for eastbound and westbound. The second recommendation would be to install a signal ahead sign along Roland for eastbound and westbound ahead of Vincent Avenue for both approaches. One will be posted on an existing pole and the other will be on a new signpost that'll have to be installed. The third item will be to continue the 8-foot wide side stripes for continuity along Roland. There's already some side stripes that exist along Roland Avenue between Lark Ellen and Estelle, so the plan is to just continue that white striping to visually narrow the road and help drivers to drive slower along the segment. The fourth recommendation would be to install yellow diamond signs at the median of the intersection of Roland and Vincent. The next recommendation is to install yellow reflective paint on the median at the intersection. And then the next one is to install white ladder striping on the crosswalk. And all three of those will help, improve visibility at the intersection for drivers. And the last recommendation is to refresh the existing Keep Clear pavement legend, as the existing pavement legend is pretty faded, and there's a alleyway that backs up to residential right there, right, like a few hundred feet before the intersection, so want to make sure that's visible.
And one thing we're also going to include that it's kind of in the text but not shown on the figure is the 35 pavement legend opposite the speed limit sign.
Oh, yeah.
This is so if someone's parking, they also are reminded what the speed is as they approach and travel on Roland. So, is there any discussion? So if you look at figure 5, kind of shows the Vincent at Roland intersection. So repainting the crosswalk and adding some yellow paint around the medians will help keep people from striking the medians in the middle, reminding them, that there is an island to swing to the side. And then there's times when people are speeding, but the 85th percentile was 38, so it wasn't a huge time all the time. There is people speeding, so also police can do some spot enforcement along this area, especially when schools are getting out, when parents are kind of not paying attention, rushing. So any other discussion or nothing?
No.
Okay, all in favor of approving these and taking it to council for discussion and final approval? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then everything is approved. And we will add the 35 pavement legends when it goes to council. Okay.
All right. And the next and final item we're discussing today is the traffic review along California Avenue between Service Avenue and West Covina Parkway. So for this report, we had a resident request to evaluate and observe any speeding concerns that they had. They requested traffic calming devices be installed, such as speed humps, stop signs, or other calming devices be installed between Service Avenue, West Covina Parkway along California Avenue. So as a result of this, we completed a 3-year collision data survey, average daily traffic count, a 24-hour speed survey, and evaluated existing conditions. So for the existing conditions, so California Avenue is mostly single-family residential, but there is some industry, like small businesses that are located at the northeast side of the segment, on the north side of the street. There's some small businesses. And at West Covina Parkway and California Avenue, north of that intersection, there's a mall and some other, commercial buildings as well. And Service Avenue and California Avenue, it's all residential. There's a always stop there. And West Covina Parkway and California Avenue is a signal-controlled intersection. The speed limit along California Avenue is about 35 miles per hour, and there is parking that's allowed on both sides of the street except for where red curb is marked. Let's see. We completed the ADT, the average daily traffic for this segment. So California Avenue between Service Avenue and West Covina Parkway. The average, the total vehicles per day going northbound was 2,835. The vehicles per day going southbound was 2,348, which made a total of 5,183 vehicles per day traveling along the segment. We also completed a speed survey for this segment. For northbound and southbound traffic, there was a 85th percentile speed of 40 miles per hour. And the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour. So it was higher than the posted. We also completed a collision investigation for this segment, and there were only 4 relevant collisions in the last 3 years between West Covina Parkway and Service Avenue along California Avenue. It's also important to note, like, this, we don't really, like, we investigated all the traffic calming devices and other potential solutions for this segment. For the recommendations, we have a few. So the first is to remove and replace the existing speed limit sign with a new oversized 35-mile-per-hour speed limit sign on California Avenue. This slide, which is south of the Blue Ash Road, or west in this figure. The next item is to install a new 35-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, which is close to California Avenue and Service Avenue, just to remind drivers of the speed limit. The third item is to paint a 35 pavement legend adjacent to these speed limit signs along the segment to help remind drivers so they can see as well. It'll reflect on the road. The fourth item is to remove the conflicting parking space adjacent to the red curb on California Avenue. So when we went out to the site and reviewed the existing conditions, we saw that there was red curb painted right next to a painted parking spot. So to resolve any confusion that drivers might have parking along the street, we're just going to remove that parking space and keep the red curb as it is. The next item is to install all-way plaques on the existing stop signs at Service Avenue and California Avenue. The next item is to install red reflective strips on the existing stop sign posts at the corners of the intersection of California Avenue and Service Avenue. The next item is to repaint the reflective yellow paint on the medians for northbound and southbound directions on California Avenue and Service Avenue. And the last item is to replace the RPMs of the existing medians at Service Avenue and California Avenue as shown.
And then part of this one, so we'll have a number 9 on here, is that to repaint the crosswalk with white ladder striping because it is faded.
Okay.
We thought at the time that maybe we were checking with pavement management if it was going to be repaved, because usually when roads are repaved, they also redo the striping, but it's not yet. So in the meantime, we need to add that to our recommendations. And then just a small note is that this resident wanted speed humps on California, but California is not eligible for speed humps because it's considered a collector street and it has a speed limit of 35 miles per hour with over 5,000 vehicle trips per day. So normally when we look at speed humps, it's only on local streets, 25 miles per hour or less, and usually it has less than 3,000 vehicles per day. There was also a request for us to look at a stop sign in the middle, but when we put in always stop, these have to meet what's called warrants for installation, and it is unlikely that Glendale or Oakdale would meet the warrants for installation because it has to have a balance of vehicles on all directions. So the side street traffic would have to have 200 vehicles coming out of a side street for every hour over 8 hours, while the main street, the one that's not stopped currently, which would be California, has to have 300 or more vehicles every hour over an 8-hour period. Or they would have to exhibit lots of pedestrians, which is like 20 or more every hour, or have collisions that reflect the need. So stop signs are not installed as a speed reduction device, because basically we found that if you put in an unwarranted stop sign, then people are likely to run the stop sign because they feel it shouldn't be there. So that was just an added informational for the resident who requested that. So we went over our recommendations, so do we have any discussion? Brian? Okay, so should we vote to move this one to council for approval? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, it passes. And we will add the restripe the crosswalk at California at Service, so that makes the crosswalk more visible. So it'll be the white ladder, so we'll add that to our recommendations. So that concludes our traffic commission. Any other comments? There are no residents at the meeting today. Any comments from the panel?
No.
Not today?
No comments from engineering.
Okay, so
All right.
Allison, you,
Mhm.
we'll close it out and we'll see you next month then. Thank you.
All right, thank you.